All right, welcome to Nitty Gritty, episode 130. We're back with the doctor, Dr. Fidel Montero.
Yo.
Doctor.
The
This
doctor.
is fun to have a 2.0.
It is.
So quick. We got a lot of people with feedback saying they wanted to have this anyway. So we're like, hey, let's just get it done quickly.
Great. I think it's great. And we were still right in the thick of it. And he had very important meetings to get to.
Yeah. And
I heard a high school to run.
I heard that the Nitty Gritty shot up and, you know,
It did.
It became the number one podcast. They even beat Rogan.
It
right?
did. Yeah.
With that interview.
For 3 hours, we were ahead of Rogan in Kazakhstan. So it was great. It felt really important. So thank you. Thanks for
you're welcome.
taking us to a new level. But yeah, so we just wanted to kind of continue. And
great.
We had some more info to talk about. And so thanks for coming back.
Thanks for having me back, y'all.
Anytime.
This is fun.
So what were we just talking about? We were talking about
Oh, man. We're like, hold
teachers.
on. Yeah, we're like, we got to do this on the podcast. It was teachers and pay.
Teachers and pay.
Right? And like how to, because so one of the things that I wanted to hit on a lot in this episode, because I think too often in society in general, we're really good at identifying problems and we're really bad at coming up with solutions, right? Everyone wants to sit back and tell everyone what's wrong with what's going on or why it's not good or whatever it is. Like, I mean, the Jazz, like how many people are sitting on Twitter that know better than the organization, the front office, and the coach.
Armchair coach.
You know, that doesn't happen in Utah.
No, you're right. No. That's just Utah Utes fans, Andrew.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
But I think it happens a lot where we just sit back and like to complain, but then it's like, okay, so what are you going to do about it? Right. And so today, I think we can talk maybe a little bit about that as far as like, what can we do? So we're not just sitting back and playing victim.
What do we do?
But it's like, what can we actually do about stuff? You know, we were just talking teachers and teachers pay. And so, I mean, when we left off on the last episode, Cam was, you know, bringing up, how do we justify paying teachers more if they're not working more?
Cam was really frustrated about that. Why don't we just speak truth?
I was
power?
frustrated, and I am frustrated. No, I was frustrated that
messing with you, man.
It was funny because I listened back to it, and there have been times where I'm like, another day off, the kids are home again, like. And then you see the news, and I think the news doesn't help, right? Because if you actually read an article about teachers, it'll say like teachers complaining about their safety with COVID. And then you read the article that says, yeah, we talked to 4 teachers. You know, and I think we're all guilty of headline reading sometimes. But for me, it was just like, I did kind of compare it to police officers and things like that, where it's like, hey, they're making about the same money, but teachers are doing it in half the amount of days worked. And so I look at that like, I know a lot of good ski patrol guys that make a fairly good living. They don't make much being ski patrol, but then they're firefighters in the summer. You know, they'll kind of do two things. So I kind of looked at it like, well, teachers could do the same thing.
And many do, right?
And many do, and many have to. But then...
Is that common, actually? Do a lot of teachers have like a secondary job?
Yeah, many of them do.
Do they?
Yep.
Do they keep it inside of like education?
It depends. I mean, I've you know, I have teachers that have been... literally wedding singers.
Yeah, that's awesome.
You know, that was probably one of the best ones. You know, a lot of them coach. A lot of them, you know, have small businesses that they run with a spouse. And, you know, and some of them actually like having the time off, right? I mean, Here's the thing, right? And one of the things, I don't know how much we talked about this last time, but anytime you work with people, you're doing emotional work, right? Because you're putting yourself out there, your energy, and whether you're a doctor, a psychologist, and I think you only have so much capacity, right, to do that sort of work. I mean, it's one thing to, you know, build a house where you can go, you know, frame a home and you know, put your earplugs in and listen to the Nitty Gritty show. You know what I'm saying? And then, you know, and get to work versus, you know, dealing with the emotional tension that comes with working with people. I mean, just this week, I had a friend of mine who's a principal and we were talking about a situation at his school where a young person, you know, threatened a teacher through a paper that this young man wrote. And, you know, like, how do you deal with that, right? How does the school support
your experience today, you have students
today we had to walk out, right? And children out there, you know, sort of wanting to have their voice be heard. And again, all of that stuff is not necessarily physical, right? but it's emotional, and the emotional is the physical. So it does have an impact on you. So again, and those are the aspects that are hard to measure, right? When you say, hey, what is this worth, right? Another thought that I had, sort of in between, right, in terms of the worth of and the value of an educator is any of us who have had an educator who has impacted our lives. You go to anybody.
We probably all have.
We all have. I hope so, right?
Right.
Whether it's a coach, whether it's a teacher. And we can ask a lot of people who can probably name at least one person, right? And then you say, what is that impact worth? You know what I mean?
You have your teacher, right? You talk about
I have
all the
goosebumps
time.
right now, like just thinking about it, because it's like I'm not sitting here if it wasn't for one of my high school
And how do you
teachers.
put a dollar amount on that impact?
And it wasn't even teaching. It was just it was
connection.
a personal. Like she did something for me that I don't think most teachers would have done, because we were connected. Like she knew me, and it was just like, it would have been way different.
That's right. So again, how do you put a dollar amount on that? Right. And us as parents, now those of us that are parents, if we have a person in our children's life who has that sort of impact, we're like, listen, you don't put a dollar amount on that. That
right.
person is worth gold, right? So again, when you contextualize the teacher pay within those terms, all of a sudden it does shift the paradigm. And like we talked last time, right? Are there teachers who perhaps should be looking elsewhere, who perhaps should not be teaching, and who are not a good fit for the profession? Absolutely, right? And I think they would be happier people if they would be doing something else, right? I mean, why deal with all that emotional sort of stress and worry and if you don't like it. So anyway, so that was a good conversation, right?
And so to transition that, talking about teacher pay and what we should be doing, I'm curious on your thoughts on like higher ed, right? Like out of college, because it does feel like every kid is told go to college, like no matter what, go to college.
Yeah.
And
our church, I mean, that the cultural aspect of that, like we have our ecclesiastical leaders in the LDS church, at least.
I mean,
it's almost like a mission, right? It's almost like
if you didn't go to college right out of high school, it's like, oh, something's wrong with you.
Right.
And now, I mean, I can only speak for myself, right? Like as far as the value of college, I think every kid is different, and I think there is certain value to it, but I do think that it is, I mean, colleges I think are different than high schools. Colleges are for-profit entities. They're making money.
That's right.
Right? And so you can't blame them for it, but I'm curious, like
they're nonprofit, just so you know.
Well,
I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah. Nonprofits. That's a whole other
podcast. That was a little jab.
But you've experienced it, you've gone through it, now you're on the other side of it. Give me your thoughts on what that looks like. Like, what is the state of higher ed in our country right now?
Man, that's a good question, and that's a loaded question. And if
you get fired, it's okay, dude. We have a backup plan.
We have a backup plan.
Speak your truth.
Yeah, I mean, so I've been fortunate, right, to interact with higher education both as a student, as a doctoral student. In addition to that, I worked in the belly of the beast. I was a chief of staff, which is a C-level, an executive level position, in a college at a university. And here's the thing, right? I don't know. We talked about this a little bit last time, but I do believe that colleges have a role to play in society. I do believe, especially research institutions, is one of the things that distinguish this country from other countries, that we have sort of a curiosity, and we have innovation that comes out of these places. And yet the fundamental question is, well, what is the role that colleges should be playing in today's society? Should a kid, have to jump through, another 4 years of education, go into a lot of debt, which we know a lot of kids are going into a lot of debt to get a college degree, to have an opportunity or a shot at life? And to me, the answer is no, that shouldn't be the case. And the model itself, the way that the model was built, you have to sort of understand the history of both secondary education and higher education to really understand sort of where they're at today. I think they started out with good intentions, maybe. The idea was to, hey, we got to educate these, this populace, right? So they can contribute to society. Now, the context for secondary ed is, the economy.
What's the difference between secondary ed and higher ed?
Well, secondary ed is, up to your senior year in high school.
Okay.
And then, post high school is college, right?
Okay.
And in high school, secondary education was created in essence to sort of, develop traits in a community so that they could contribute in an industrialized type economy, right? So they could be
your foundational skills. Right?
Yeah, that's right.
Foundational
that's right.
knowledge, foundational skills.
That's right. And and at that time when it was set up, they sort of borrowed from the higher education model to create high schools. And that higher ed model, however, was built to sort of weed people out. Does that make sense? It wasn't really built to say, hey, we're going to be really inclusive, educate everybody that comes through the door. So that's one of the challenges that we have today, right? Is that we're still fighting sort of the traditions, the sort of institutionalized, practices that were created by folks
hundreds of years ago. Nothing is changing.
That's right. And all so all that to say, I think higher ed definitely plays a role in society. I think we need colleges to do their thing, especially research institutions. But we need to be rethinking of how we look at a college degree, how we look at a college experience. I don't think personally that a kid needs to go to school for 4 years to be a contributing member of society. No way. And if that's the case, we have a lot of issues because most kids don't do that, right? And so
even the kids that do, I think the number is like less than 25% actually work in the area that they graduate.
That's right.
So even the kids that get through, I think last year, the average graduate had almost $40,000 of student loan debt with a degree that only 1 in 4 are going to use. So now you just have this $40,000 debt with a degree that you don't use.
Yeah. Colleges are good at getting specialized knowledge, right? Like if you're going to be a doctor, you definitely want
for sure
kids to really understand,
Well, the way it's set up now, you have to. Right?
Yeah.
Like that's a prerequisite. Like you have to go to college.
What we focus on more in a secondary setting, in a high school setting, is we really focus on understanding what skills kids need in order to be successful adults, right? So we sort of feel that there are certain skills that kids need that will transfer from one area to another, from one job to another, in order for them to be successful. Now, we're still fighting, a system that was set up to teach kids how to be, how to look at a clock, how to check in, how to check out, in a sort of industrialized kind of economy. And so we're fighting that, right? Grades are a good example of that, and how we measure learning. So we're trying to we're trying to change that. And when a kid takes a chemistry class, rather than being worried about the content that they're learning, we want them to understand the skills that it requires to learn in chemistry that can apply to, running a barbecue store, or, having your own sort of business, whatever that may be. Does that make sense? For sure. But again, it's
but you still have to color within the lines.
Well, and who are you fighting?
We're fighting. I mean, just think about it, right? So all of our teachers go through college to become teachers, and they're trained as if they are going to be PhD candidates, right? The skills that they're learning as teachers. So when they go teach, they're you're fighting that sort of that
academia,
that tension, right, exactly, of how you were graded, how you were taught, how the professor behaved. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
So that's what we're fighting right there, right? Okay. It's sort of that tradition that's and that culture that's sort of steep, right?
Also like the accreditation.
Well,
yeah, that's right.
Curriculum, right? Like I did want to touch on that last time, like just what was the Common Core and all that stuff, like funding, and we're forced to teach this if we want funding and XYZ.
You have to have. I mean, Scott Schwab talked about this a little bit when he was going through his accreditation for the university.
That's right.
Right. And I mean, Fidel, you and I have butt up against this in what we're doing, but a lot of times the accreditation is hours in the seat.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's how many hours, how long is your butt in that seat for? Content is almost like secondary.
Yeah.
Learning is after that.
See, and I've never
you know what I
thought
mean?
of
And so
that
it's like
content thing.
So in order for you to get credit for this class, you have to be in here for 80 hours. It's like, well, if I could teach this to you in 5, why do I have to spread it out over 80?
Because I need to make
by spreading it out, you water it down, and then the learning goes down. So I think that's part of this issue, is the structure to get like the accreditation or the the check that you got that stuff done.
Yeah, Wasatch High School, they got a great deal in CAM. Go Wasps.
Yeah.
They got a good deal in CAM because they got all of the funding for him.
Yes.
But no butt in the seat.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
They
He just didn't show up. So,
You're right.
So
But I did clean bathrooms for like 6 months to graduate.
Bargain for those
They
guys.
got a lot of free janitorial
You know
services.
what I'm saying? No, but you're right. I mean, I think it's referred to as the Carnegie unit, right? This idea that in order for you to learn, X, you have to sit you have to sit in a seat for so many hours, and we're still funded that way. We have to submit reports to the state that indicates how we're going to meet their hour requirement, right?
It's like perpetuating,
and that's like the first thing.
Right?
That's like the first thing they want is how many hours.
Yeah, and there's not
it's they're being graded. The students are being
Everybody's
graded.
being graded.
Everyone's being freaking graded.
Now, we don't submit a report that's titled, butts and seats,
right?
But to the State Office of Education in Utah,
right?
That'd be kind of actually funny, right?
Oh,
so they awesome. They call it instructional hours.
Sure.
Yeah, it's a little fancier.
It's because the PhDs had to come up with that.
Somebody had to come up with that title.
Got to sound official.
Yeah. Now, but and here's the thing, right? Like. There's no question that it takes time for anybody to learn anything. It takes time for you to become an expert at anything. But we're trying to, when it comes to proficiency, we're trying to say, hey, in order for you to be proficient in anything, you have to be in a class these many hours, as opposed to ask the question, has the kid mastered the skill? Right. And how about measuring, when a kid enters a biology class, maybe they've mastered it already. Maybe they took, they were on YouTube all summer and they understand it well. Let's move them up without having them to.
It's almost like when you can test out of Spanish, right? I got back from audition. I could take one test. It was like 28 credits because I was sufficient.
That's right. So there's actually a good movement within. Schools that are sort of ahead of others, that are being innovative. They're asking questions about what is, the standard that we want to have in this class. They're teaching against those standards. They're really trying to make it be, skill and proficiency based. And they're trying to, but again, they're trying to do that within a system that was designed for them not to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
So it becomes frustrating for teachers, right? Because then, you get a kid, they show mastery. Then
almost strip their abilities from them, right?
Yeah.
Like, I want the teacher to have some leeway to work with. Like, this class gets really excited about this and be able to kind of hang out in that. Well, and then you were talking about content. Wouldn't it be cool if kids could actually enjoy learning instead of stressing about getting a grade?
Yeah. Or if the teachers were rewarded for good content?
Here's the problem with grades. There's a lot of different problems with grades. First of all, I think we look at them as currency, right?
Well, colleges make
and college look at them as currency. And as parents, we do the same thing, right? If little Johnny, is getting a C minus,
$10.
We think we're gonna.
It's true,
right?
You pay
your kids.
I owed my parents $5,000 when I got out of high school. From all the D's and F's. No, I'm just kidding.
That's right. But so we incentivize the wrong thing, right? Instead of going to little Cam Bam and say, look, Cam, I'm gonna give you, $10 if you really master, if you really understand whatever this subject,
right,
as opposed to if you get an A. Right.
Totally.
An A is just like, hey, you learned how to jump the hoop, right? Because think about
Let me tell you about my grades. I just learned the rules of the game.
Totally.
Not learning.
That's right.
I got a 4.0.
But here's the dilemma.
Not going to class.
Yeah.
But here's the dilemma, right? Like, anybody who sort of, a mature person, right?
You're speaking to the wrong people.
I know. I am speaking to the wrong people. A mature person. Let's hypothetically talk about a mature person. They understand.
Brent. He's mature.
Yeah, talk to Brent.
Yeah, Brent behind the camera.
Yeah.
A mature person understands that failure is at the heart of learning. Does that make sense? You fail again.
That's a great point.
And that's where learning happens, right? That's where the magic really happens, right? And yet our system is set up, where you where failure becomes, it almost becomes, it's something we fear, right? Like kids walk into a school and if they get a C-, they're afraid of that. Why? Because mom is putting, or dad, or Cam, they're putting pressure,
Not
right?
me.
They're putting pressure on you to get an A, and you're like, gosh, I can't fail, right? And then the teacher has, they have a certain amount of time that they have to submit a grade for, right? And if little Johnny, doesn't fit that timeline, then they feel pressure to assign to them a grade. So again,
they're rewarded by being able to say average grade. And like kids get better grades in their class. They're probably a better teacher.
That's right. Yeah. So the system is just set up. It's set up in a way that it doesn't give incentives to those things that we actually understand help, like failure, right? Like how many kids are going to get up and say, hey, listen, I'm so excited because I've got 2 Fs here and I'm really learning from this experience, right? It's not happening, right? And then how many PTA moms, and again, I love my PTA moms, by the way. I shout out to if any of my PTA, Team View PTA is listening. I love these ladies. They're amazing. But my question to them is,
Senator Montero.
when was the last time when was the last time one of my PTA moms, where little Johnny came home and, hey, mom, I got an F- or an F. And she was like, hey, let's go get a shake over that, right? Most of us like freak out. We're like, oh my gosh, you're failing. I'm a failure. Your dad's a failure. We're going to get a divorce because you're getting an F, right?
That's why I hid in the bushes.
You know what I'm saying?
Report
so again,
the
point that I'm making, right, is that we have the incentives backwards. You know what I'm saying? And now, again, people are realizing that, and we're starting slowly to change that idea, right? Like in our school, one of the first things we did when I first started was we changed our mission statement, and we said, look, we're going to put growth as one of the core values that we have as a school.
Oh, that's cool.
And what does growth mean? Well, growth means that you try, that you fail, you fail.
Messy. Growth is
and
messy.
It's messy, and it's a core value for us, right? Like we tell our kids, look, you're not going to be successful in college and career or in your life if you don't understand this idea of growth. If you don't understand the idea that, hey, you got to fall on your face 100 times, and that's actually learning.
You have to reward effort, right?
Yeah.
Like
absolutely.
For me, like I have ADHD. I talk about it a lot. Like I like the education system. That's one thing about teachers that I think is really hard is somebody that has ADHD. Like they require a different type of learning. And the school
do you like
system,
the Dodgers?
Yes.
I'm just wondering why you're wearing a Dodgers hat.
Yeah, I like the Dodgers. I grew up there. Remember?
I'm just messing with you.
Oh, is this
I was
ADHD? Is that what you're doing? Look at this. See what we're dealing with here? I swear.
What were you saying?
Wow. This is our educators, people. This is what my people have to deal
Andrew,
with.
what was Cam talking about?
Wow.
He's getting really
what
philosophical.
A dick. What a dick. I swear. Maybe
Sorry,
we need to talk about principal pay.
Now we were talking about something else, right? Principal pay.
What was
You were saying? I can't
remember now.
I think.
Damn it.
I think it was an
Fidel?
acronym: ADD, ADHD, PhD.
He's gonna make me
PhD.
mad in a second.
Types of learning. You're talking about
Oh
teachers.
yeah. Oh, that's right.
Types of
Sorry,
teaching,
man.
learning.
Not the Dodgers.
Struck a nerve. Hold on.
He's regrouping. Is he gathering?
I'm regrouping.
He's breathing. Okay. He's alive.
breathing.
Let's go, dog.
So, as you're
I really don't
regrouping,
remember.
that's okay.
That's what anger does to me.
We're going to transition to the next
Oh,
thing
man.
with this because
Fidel? Woo.
What was he saying?
is about the types of teaching.
Oh, I was going to talk about effort.
Yeah.
Effort.
Rewarding effort.
We were.
Yes.
Let's
okay.
go. Let's go,
So,
dog. I got you.
this guy is not getting free food anymore. No, so for my problem with grades was that I never did homework, right? Like for me, it was just like, if I didn't like it, I mean, it's the same now. If I don't like it, there has to be like a deadline or this has to be done for me to get the drive to do it, unless it's something that I really enjoy.
Like a serious enough consequence.
For
better or worse.
You
For
wanna
better or
something-
worse,
you wanna-
100%. And so but it's funny, if you look at my high school transcripts, like I'm in pre-algebra my senior year because I hate math and I was working the system, right? Like I got to stay in the easiest class so I can at least just pass. But then I'm in AP sociology, AP history, and I get A's for, all 4 quarters. But I loved it, right? And so, but how different would it have been if it's just like, just try.
Yeah.
Like, I'll give you a C for trying.
Yeah.
You may not get an A. Like, A will require you to do it right, but I will give you a C if I can tell that you did your best. Like, and I know it's hard to individualize that, especially in high school with what I learned from you, last week, how there's multiple periods, but it would be really cool to not fail something as long as somebody really gave it a shot.
Doable.
Right?
Especially because who cares if you don't know how to find the value of X in the equation?
I still don't know where that is or what it is.
You know what I mean?
And
but like,
nor do I care.
So many of these things, like at the end of the day, it really isn't that important.
Right.
Because we can find the answer to that now so easily.
You know the crazy thing about that in terms of learning, grades, and so forth. So here's the crazy part. When you go get your bachelor's, it's so rigid. Right? Deadlines like hell. I mean, and you're stressed out and grades and GPAs. And it sucks, right?
Totally.
It sucks. And then you go get your master's and all of a sudden it starts to relax a little,
Oh, that's interesting.
It's super interesting, right?
Oh, wow.
And
just because you're doing like, maybe you've proven yourself already. You're just there about the content.
Right. A lot of it's more project based though as well.
It's more project based. You have a different relationship with your professors. Your classes are smaller. There's less, it's a different experience, right? And then you're studying something that you actually really are interested in, right? As opposed to
does
that make sense? And then check it out. And then you go get your PhD and it's like
no structure.
It's the opposite. The structure there is some structure.
Sure.
It's your deadlines. You're picking your research.
I mean, to your point, you got your PhD a year faster than anyone else in your class.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, a year.
So there's not like a time limit.
No time limit, right? And you have a mentor that's walking you through stuff, right? One-on-one, right? They're walking you through your study. And the idea is like you're trying to find new knowledge. It's the complete opposite of your bachelor's experience. And that's actually more true learning, right? When you're
that's how college should be, right?
Right.
100%.
But it's again, they got to make, colleges got to make money. So you bring in all the undergrads. It's almost like a business model, right? The undergrads come in, they pay the higher tuition. So, and then you have fewer master students and most PhD candidates don't pay for their PhD.
Right. So companies do it.
Well, it's the college that gives them the scholarship.
Oh.
Does that make sense?
Oh, really?
Based on, because of the revenue they're generating from the undergrad.
Right.
So like all the undergrads are basically subsidizing the real learning.
That's right.
It's kind of like club soccer.
It's exactly what it is. It's youth sports. The top athletes don't pay for it. It's the kids that aren't any good.
That's
the
right.
Best coaches, the best gear. It's the
C and D that pay for all of
that. You know what I'm saying?
All paying the same amount of money.
That's the exact same thing.
And the learning, context is completely different, right? It's a lot more relaxed. It's a lot more sort of open. It's a lot more, there's a lot more space for failure, right? And again, the experience is different. I love going through my PhD in that sense, right? I wasn't as stressed out, right? I was engaged with my studies. I was engaged with my work.
What was that?
It is. It's actually pretty cool, right? Like versus your bachelor's where you're like a stress case. Again, my point being is that we have it backwards, right?
Totally.
We have it backwards. Instead of creating that experience for an undergrad, right? Or at the undergrad level, we make them jump through all these hoops, which does not make sense, right?
Doesn't at all.
Does not make sense.
Well, and I think the next evolution of all of this, because I think it's going to be really hard to like make any systemic changes that are really going to help. And so Fidel, to your point, like the schools do the best they can inside of the box that they're allowed to play, right?
Is the box the state? Like, is that like when you say box, I think my question is kind of along what you're saying is like, how much freedom do you have like as an individual school to get outside the box?
Yeah, I mean,
start your own programs.
It's tricky, right? Because I mean, the state of Utah has a board of education, right? These folks are elected officials that you can vote for, right? If you're listening, and vote and are involved. So you vote for these folks, and they represent different regions in the state of Utah.
They determine the amount of money each school gets per person.
So they do. They're
kind of the important people.
Right?
And they determine what the requirements are to get those dollars.
Within this school board, right, and that's elected, there's a whole office in Salt Lake City, the Utah board association, right? School board association. And they are the ones who, determine curriculum. They determine sort of, the curriculum standards.
Right.
So they sort of set the framework, right? And then each district individually has some, leeway, right, to make choices within those parameters that they set. So then each school then, by the time the schools are making decisions, they're making them within the framework that the district has set, that the state has set. And layered on top of that, you got the federal government, right, that sets certain parameters. So the answer, it gets tricky to lead within that environment because
no wonder people are going to private schools.
Well,
or paying all that extra money to send kids to. You know what I mean?
Now, yeah, and they don't always get it wrong. I mean, there's some good stuff that states are doing, right? You get some good leaders that that think outside of the box, ironically, right? So there's some good stuff that happens within that framework, but it does make it very cumbersome. And then you've got legislators who make laws that impact schools that throw into that.
Anytime the government's involved, it's going to be a crap show.
Yeah,
they're just it's not going to get done.
100%. Well, and you're not factoring in how different every school is.
No,
right.
Like for example, Provo School District,
yeah.
Timpview. I mean, from Timpview to Alpine. You know what I mean? Like those schools should be. And there's different needs inside of the state.
If a teacher is teaching the same amount of kids in a rural community, why aren't they making the same money that a teacher in an urban area?
But we talked about those funding.
Yeah, right. That's what I'm saying. Like
so here's something crazy too. I'm going to jump in the financial literacy realm, right? So in the U.S., there's only 21 states that require financial literacy even be taught at all in high school, right? And that just means it just has to be mentioned in class. Only
by a PE coach.
Well, hold on, I'm getting there. So there's only 6 states that require a half semester class. Only 6 states in the whole United States require that high school kids have a half a semester of financial literacy.
You have to take mathematics your entire 4 years of high school.
But
down in Alabama, they only know how to count to 1. Go Tide roll.
But
I was wondering where you're going with that. That's pretty good.
So
down here at BYU, I love Kalani. Kalani, if you're listening, but we got a lot more to count.
Yes, we do.
But so you have the 6, but then here's the thing. Like,
listeners, you listen. Sorry, Drew.
I have a friend who teaches financial literacy in one of the local high schools here, and I've helped teach his class. First of all, his period is like 80 minutes long.
Right.
And when he got called to teach the class, it was, here, you're going to teach this course for the kids. He was like, okay. He's like, I don't really have any financial training. Like, I don't know anything about money except I've done good and I'm not in debt, which is better than 9 out of 10 Americans.
Right.
Right. So he's like, that's really all I know. And they're like, okay. And he's like, so what do I do for the curriculum? And they're just like, oh, you'll figure it out. So talking about all of these standards. So even
you graduated from Wasatch High School. Though.
That's right.
He was going to figure it out.
Like even though Utah, and it's funny because Utah gets a ton of praise for being in the lead for financial literacy. But when
in our schools?
Yes, because we're one of the first states and we have it.
It's ironic that we spend the least amount of money per student too.
But then
financial literacy.
But then here's the thing. I went and taught his class and like 80 minutes is a long time.
It's way too long.
And let me tell you what these kids need to know. I could fit everything that
Andrew
high school.
Rock.
That's right.
I could fit everything I need to teach this kid about money in one class.
For sure.
If they understand these core principles that I could teach in one class, it will change their lives financially. But now I've got to spread it out over how many classes are in a semester, Fidel?
That's a trick question. It depends if it's a semester, a quarter.
That's why I said a semester.
Oh, a semester. So how many classes?
Like how many class periods are in a semester?
No, is it in the fall because you got fall break?
Give me a round number, doctor.
He's on one today. This guy.
Give me a round number.
Typically within a quarter.
It's a walkout day.
If it's a walkout day.
Is it 50? Is it 50?
Typically, you got 9 weeks.
Okay.
And within a quarter, 18 weeks in a semester, approximately.
So 18 times on average, 2.5.
But they go every other day if it's a block schedule versus if they're going every day.
So call it 2.5. So we'll say 40. We're going to round and we're going to say 40. So that means I have 40 class periods with these students, 80 minutes a pop. No one is going to pay attention. There is not enough curriculum to teach money 40 times to a high school kid.
Right.
So now guess what happens to these kids? They get to check the box that they went through financial literacy. They've heard every term imaginable for money because they have to, because you got to waste 80 minutes times 40. So now they have this false sense of security that they really know what's going on. Then they start making decisions. All of a sudden they get their first credit card statement. Hey, you're pre-approved for this card. And they're like, oh, I remember I learned about this in high school. Oh yeah. Should I do that? Oh, for sure. And all of a sudden,
like Columbia House for me when I was a kid.
And then
remember the CDs?
Just like downhill from
13
there.
13 free?
But it's crazy that like I experienced it firsthand because I was actually proud that Utah had the thing, but I'm like, I don't know if they're doing more.
It's probably more damage than good,
than good by having the class without having teacher training and resources. Like, how do you expect them to teach these kids when the truth is teachers are one of the worst professions at managing their finances? Like, they get taken advantage of so much because they're so busy with all this other stuff we talked about. They don't have time to learn how to do it. So they just have to trust
Is that
others.
True?
Yes.
Like that's crazy. I didn't know that.
What's that?
In
like financial.
So my industry
like
is
teachers
like
having
known for taking advantage of teachers.
Yeah, see, that's the problem. That's the financial industry.
It's always
I'm
Wall Street, man.
Wall Street.
No, Wall Street is corrupt
taking advantage
than
of Main
any.
Street.
They're way more corrupt.
Old people and teachers.
Yeah. So here's what's crazy. After COVID, 18 to 24-year-olds were the number one victims of financial fraud online. More so than old people. But how many laws do we have protecting young people from financial fraud? 0. Yeah. For older people, there are 100 different laws and paperwork that you have to try and protect them from. But for 18 to 24-year-olds, 0.
And they were just living online during COVID.
And they are now.
Yeah.
Freaking COVID.
It's crazy.
Yeah, COVID. Oh, man. So what do we do?
Well, Fidel, what do we do, bud?
Because see, it's funny when we were talking about content a few minutes ago.
Yeah.
Like, I know that we're going to talk about that with you guys, but that truly is probably the most important thing outside of like socializing, networking, learning how to just live in the world, right?
Well, it's the one thing that every single person will mess with.
Well, and I think most parents should probably come to the class with them because we all came through the same, like I didn't learn, and this is no diss to my parents, but I didn't learn jack crap from my parents about financial anything.
It's because we're not supposed to talk about money. Like I could come in here and we've had it. We've had guests talk about sex and periods and mental health and weight and religion and race and drugs. And it's super open conversation.
Yeah.
If I were to ask Cam, how much money do you have in your savings account? All of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, this is super uncomfortable. Like, I don't want to answer that question.
Right.
Right. But it's
more than you think.
That's awesome.
But it's probably less than it should be.
But that point that it should be,
I really want a boat.
And so, but no, that's the problem is we don't talk about it. Parents aren't talking about it. You're taught it's rude to talk about money.
Yeah, no, it totally is.
You know what I mean? Like
we talk about Bruno.
We talk.
Oh my gosh.
I just realized if you would have said that 3 days ago, I wouldn't have known what you were talking about.
Fidel's on spring break already.
That's right.
Fidel is on spring break already.
He's checked out.
Yeah.
I told you it's a walkout day, dude. He needs to just let loose in here. It's good for him.
Yeah.
We can handle it. But no, and at the high school level, and I think there's probably a way to make it enjoyable. I think it needs to be in like shorter increments. But I remember being a kid in elementary school and learning about the stock market. Like, we all got to pick a stock in the newspaper. I actually thought that was really fun.
It's so good. It teaches a ton.
There is a way to make it fun, but like compound interest, debt, credit, make it fun. Just like, dude, put $10 a week away right now, and this is what it will be when you're 50 years old.
Well, then the other thing is, schools end up paying for it. Like, I mean, how much money did your school have to pay for like additional curriculum to just like.
Well, with Dave Ramsey's, we had to order some extra Bibles with the curriculum.
Dave Ramsey does a school curriculum?
And it comes with a free Bible.
He does a financial literacy for high school kids that is
hilarious.
Absolute garbage.
I'm kidding about the Bible part.
Did the Gideons donate that?
I'm kidding. He is a Christian man, though, I think, right?
Hey,
Dave Ramsey.
That's how we got to start. I
think the point that Andrew is trying to make and that I think holds true is that what should kids learn when they go to high school? Right. If you ask yourself that question, what should when the kid
what's a foundational
gets
thing?
their diploma, what should that diploma represent? That they have learned what? You know what I'm saying? And, we've put a lot of stock on mathematics, on science, psychology or history. And those things are great. But I think a lot of people like Andrew and others are asking the question, well, what about more basic skills, right? And I don't know if basic is the right term for them, but what about skills like
foundational
skills?
That's what, right.
Like managing your finances and
but even that, your relationship with money,
what
is it? How do you use it?
Yeah. So I think that's a really good question. And we haven't asked that question hard enough. We haven't pressed hard enough to as an education system to really look at ourselves in the mirror and say, okay, are we really preparing kids to go on after high school? If a kid didn't get any more high school or any more education after high school, are they truly ready to be adults? You know what I'm saying? And I don't know if we can answer that question with honesty, with integrity, saying, because we do have some big gaps, right?
Huge gaps.
Relationship, like you were saying, right?
Yeah.
Or do we teach our kids how to manage relationships? Do we teach our kids, again, as Andrew was saying, how to manage their finances? I certainly didn't get any of that. Like we talked about in the last podcast, which again was ranked number 1 above, Mr. Rogan himself, right? I grew up dirt poor, man, and I had a really bad relationship with money. For one, I didn't have a relationship because I didn't have money, and then once I started, making money as a professional, it took time, man, to sort of shift that paradigm, right? And again, it wasn't something that we talked about, right? It wasn't something, we didn't talk about resources, we didn't talk about Bruno, and we didn't talk about money,
right.
In our house and in school, right?
And a lot of times people think if you're good at making money, you're good at managing your money, and it is so the opposite, right?
No money, no problems.
Like part of the reason that I wanted to do the financial literacy stuff I had so many clients who made a lot of money. They were not good with it. They were not managing
at athletes.
Look at professional athletes and lottery winners, right?
Yeah.
The number is like 80% of them are bankrupt within a couple of years, and they have millions of dollars.
Yeah, but they own stars now. They own stars. They own planets.
Yeah.
They own islands.
Yep. But for real, that's what happens with it. And so
easy come, easy go.
Yeah, but they're never taught just really basic skills. Like Fidel talks a lot about like these skills, and money is one of them.
I'd say it's a big one. And the younger you start, I mean,
we can go around, we can go to every single person in the restaurant today and ask them, when was the last time you looked at a biology question? Chemistry.
Or dissected a frog.
History. Mathematics, right? Ask all of them, when was the last time you had to face money?
Yeah.
Every single adult has to face money, whether they want to or not. You can hide your head in sand as long as you want to. It is one of those things that every single person has to face.
But is this something the federal government wants?
No.
I would say that it's not.
No.
What's that?
Well, this is going to be conspiracy theorists talking here, but it's like, if the federal government wants us all to be wealthy or all to be smart with money, to me, that takes power away from them, right?
No, they don't. They want you to be.
They want you to be dependent on them.
Yeah, that's why so many
is this type of thing
are
ever going to be allowed to be taught in our schools?
Yeah, and I don't know if there's a little, green alien, in the White House controlling this kind of stuff, right? I don't know if I.
He's not. They're not green.
They're not green. Yeah.
Mostly white people.
Yeah.
But.
Yeah, I mean, that's I'm not going to touch the conspiracy stuff. I do think, governments do some things really well. They build roads really well. They do some things.
They do?
Well, in some places.
Oh, okay.
They have the capacity, right, to do some to do some big stuff.
They have the capacity.
And when it comes to, again, back to this conversation about skills that the kids need, right, to be successful. I think it's on us as a community, right, to say, look, this is what we value. This is what we hope our children have when they leave school, and let's make sure that they have that, right, that they're learning that. Andrew hit me up about a year ago and pitched this idea to me of saying, hey, look, what if we designed a class, right, to teach kids how to do money?
Right.
He's like, I know money, education, let's have a baby. Not literally.
Yes.
And let's come up with something, right? And it I get hit up for different projects a lot, right? But this one was really intriguing because it was personal for me, right? Like I told you, I didn't grow up with a good relationship with money. And I thought, you know what? There's a lot of children who grow up in poverty who sort of get left on the sideline and don't have the opportunity. It's an opportunity gap, right, that they have when it comes to building wealth, when it comes to understanding wealth, when it comes to having a good relationship with wealth. So I took up Andrew on the offer, and we stumbled through and kind of wrote a curriculum. It's out there on the digital web now, right? And with the idea of saying, can we, help kids have a better relationship with money, give them enough foundational knowledge that they can hopefully feel a sense of empowerment. They can be adults, because again. There's schools that are trying decisions. Schools are trying, and shout out to all the financial literacy teachers out there that are trying their best to do this. But we need more help. We need more resources, and so it was a fun project to sort of do with him.
Well, the thing is too is they're still inside of the box. Like even me we've talked a lot about like the regulations of advisors, right? Like I can't do a lot of this stuff, so I actually am having to drop my licenses.
It's so stupid. Oh, that is so stupid.
In order for me to be able to really do this, because it won't fit inside of the box that is licenses and regulations. So imagine you take education in the financial world, which are about as strict as you can get with these boxes, right? Run by big players. And so what's been interesting with Fidel and I is the willingness to step outside of that and look in and say, okay, they do a lot of really good, but there's still some massive gaps.
For sure.
So how do we bridge that gap, right? Like how do we create education that's short, it's entertaining, it's engaging, but more than anything, it leads to action. Right? Because like if you don't do anything with it, then cool, you have a bunch of stats memorized. Like that doesn't mean anything.
Well, or you're going for a grade.
Yeah.
Again, that's the problem with high school. I feel like so many kids treat high school as like, I'm here to perform a certain way to get into college.
Yep.
Yeah.
Instead of just saying like, I can learn some crap. Like this could be this could be awesome. I can learn, be better.
I mean, even college, they go at the same thing.
Right? Yeah. Well, not the PhDs.
We do different.
We do different. But so is this something that you guys want to put in the actual curriculum in schools, or is this something you want to do extracurricular that people can do outside of school?
You mean this project that we worked on?
This project that you're working on.
Yeah, I mean, I think the idea is to get it out there, right? Get it out there so that whether it's a kid who's done with high school and is just sort of going into college, or they're just working and they want to learn more about, hey, how do I become more comfortable with my relationship with money? How do I get to, how do I understand some basics about money? They can access it, right? So it's not necessarily intended to be a book to be read. It's not a book. It's, we put together it's an online.
It's an online course with videos,
right?
See, I think this would be rad for parents too, to like watch with their kids, because I bet parents would learn some stuff too, and how to help your kids. Learn.
We've talked about that, like making like a student or a teacher guide, like how to help someone get someone through the course.
Yeah.
Because we talk about students a lot because that's who was in mind for it, but the truth is, it's just financial foundation. Right. So like anyone who doesn't feel like they have like a solid foundation.
So what do you
this is going to do it.
So what do you guys consider the foundation? Like what are the first three principles that 18 or a 16 to 18-year-old
managing
kid should
your
know?
cash flow.
Firm foundation.
right?
Yeah. Firm foundation.
Managing cash flow, debt, taxes, credit, invest.
Wait, debts, taxes, credit, invest.
Yep, and then managing cash. So like the flow of your money.
See, and that's the other thing. Like my uncle had credit cards for his kids. Like, so they got credit when they were like 8, and then he just used them, so they had established credit.
So we teach parents, like, it's called an authorized user, and you add your kids to your credit card.
Yeah, and that, like, we don't want kids to be scared of credit cards, right?
They're not bad.
Sure,
Here's a shout out to all my Second Amendment folks out there, right?
Right.
You being one of them. The whole argument, right, is that like, look, if you teach a child to be responsible with a gun, with a hunting rifle, whatever, they're not going to be. They're going to know how to handle it. You give them education about it, right? The same things with a credit card. Now, it can become very dangerous if you 100%. Don't know.
It's a great analogy.
Yeah,
you like that?
Yeah, there we go. Very good. We need to hang out outside the podcast.
That's right.
Where we can just be unruly, just be ourselves. But no, that is a good analogy.
That's the point, right? A lot of kids get in trouble when they don't know how to handle credit. Honestly, right? How many, you look at these same day loan places, right?
Yeah.
What do you call them?
Check cashing.
The check cashing places. Who's getting loans from payday loans, right?
Do you know what the average interest rate is on those?
It's like 25-30%, isn't it?
367%.
And it's folks, unfortunately, who can afford it the least.
It's because they don't have
illegal immigrants or migrants,
listen,
right?
Bro,
like,
it's
it's messed up.
So again, the point that I'm trying to make.
So this will blow your mind. The number one customer are not illegal immigrants. It's people that don't have access to banks, that are citizens of the U.S., but there's not access to banks close to them, so they have to use those places to transact.
Again, and that's where not having good financial knowledge becomes really troublesome. Does that make sense?
You'll go cash your $150 check, and they're going to say, hey, it's only a $15 check cash fee. Hey, if you need an extra $50, and then all of a sudden you do it. And so like the average loan is not even a year long, and then it ends up 7 years.
It's insane to me that that's legal. Insane.
Yeah, again, and they might serve a purpose, in our communities and
for houseboats.
I don't know what that is. I don't want to go there and be judgmental, right? But they do definitely. The point that I'm trying to make is when folks are not educated about anything,
right?
That's when they can get themselves in trouble. So back to your question about a credit card. Yeah, you might think, oh my gosh, you're giving your 12-year-old a credit card. Well, hey, how about you teach that 12-year-old what a credit card does? Maybe they get in trouble. Maybe they fall flat on their face and they spend $1,000 on video games. I hope my son's not listening, because that didn't happen in my house.
Yeah.
But, we made the kid work for it the whole summer. And he had to, he worked an entire summer to pay back, and did he learn his lesson about credit cards? I hope, right? But the point being is that we want people to have the right relationship with resources, with money. And that was the whole point of coming together and doing that class. I think what's cool about it too, right, is that I feel that as just the world of learning is moving at such a fast pace. You know what I'm saying? I mean, the way people learn today versus the way they learned even 5 years ago, right? Or even 10 years ago. Technology
so much.
It's amazing, bro. I mean, on some ways, it's such an exciting field to be in education, right? Because, technology is blowing everything, on its back. And I'm not saying that technology is the end all to, the answer to every question, right? Because I still think we're human, and I think relationships matter. And that's they always will. And that's the value add that a good teacher brings to the table. But man, we're in exciting times for learning. So, for us to come together and say, look, can we add to this sort of energy that's out there about learning? Can we create, a product, right, that's not accredited, but that comes from your best thinking in the financial world, from your best thinking in education, and put it out there and see how people will respond to it, right?
Well, and that's what was so important, was having the two sides, because there are people that are teaching financial literacy, whether they are educated or not, whether they have the credentials or not. But we wanted to make sure that we had the content right, but then also the delivery system right.
Right.
And that's what's unique about this, because, one of Steve Jobs' most famous quote is the ultimate, simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. And so you look at the course and it's just, one video might be 5 minutes, right? But what Fidel brought is the structure of education on how to deliver it for maximal like for optimal learning.
Right.
And then you bring in the good stuff of what they really need. And now all of a sudden, literally in a 5-minute video, they can walk away with a money skill that they can implement right then.
Right.
And so every video has like a guidebook that comes with it. So it'll have, you know, it helps with it. But then the most important part about it is it has like action steps to take. So it's like, hey, if you want to learn about debt, we're going to teach you about it. But then here's step 1, step 2, and step 3 for what to do to get out of it or to avoid it. And same with investing or credit and building credit, all of that kind of stuff. It's all there. It's all there.
Wow. So what's this called? How do people find it?
So the company is PathU, and we kind of have an Instagram account. I mean, literally it's brand new. I mean, we're both busy doing stuff, but we're hoping that this is going to lead to a lot of other stuff.
If you still watch TV at 3 a.m. in the mornings, there'll be some commercials at that time that you can,
Right,
you know, find our 1-800 number.
Chamois.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. But no, it's
Flex Seal.
It's called PathU, and all of our social media is PathU online, and then we'll be pathu.com. But yeah, we have the course, like it's finally done and uploaded and ready. We're just working on some final tweaks. So by the time this airs, it'll probably be live, but you can just come to my Instagram. We're going to do a fun launch, get the course out there. And if you're interested in it, let us know. We'll get you all taken care of.
I think it's pretty cool. Honestly.
What do you think, Cam?
It's awesome. I mean, I think parents, unfortunately, not all of them want to parent right now. So if there's a way to pay for a way to parent, you know what I'm saying? Like
replace yourself.
But I think there's a lot of people like I said before, there are a lot of parents that they may be successful.
Well, no,
they don't really know a lot about money. So it's like, hey, if I can give my kid something that I didn't get and maybe learn something along the way, it's huge.
Right.
Yeah.
It's huge. And so I'm excited to see how it delivers. Like it is shorter. Like
yeah. So Fidel, we talk about it in the course, but one of his kind of his better learning skills as a PhD was 10 minutes a day. Like just spend 10 minutes.
10 minutes a day.
Why is school 6 hours?
That's a good question, bro. They're not taking
what
my advice.
if you had your way to do it? How much school, or how long would school?
I mean,
be
the
every
idea
day?
that how long would school be?
Yeah, no politician answers.
Yeah, no. I mean, I think
answer.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I think a 60-minute class is just right. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It gives you time to engage with a subject. It gives you time to sort of practice it, get your hands dirty, whatever you're doing. Once we go beyond that, it starts to get really quite long. Right.
So classes are 80 minutes now?
A lot of classes are, a lot of high schools especially have, 90-minute blocks, and they're too long. I mean, I'm trying to have a conversation with my, school district about that because it's just too long. Who wants
ridiculous.
to sit? I mean, think about it, right? I mean, imagine going to church for an hour or in 90 minutes. I mean, people have a hard time going to church for an hour, let alone
saying sacrament should be 30 minutes long.
30 minutes, right?
And then we should get into classes.
But the guy, what Andrew's talking about, this idea of 10 minutes a day was when I started my doctoral program. So part of your doctoral program, you have to ask yourself a question. That's how you start with the dissertation. What question are you trying to solve, right? And this guy, the advice that I got was, look, if you spend 10 minutes a day on your dissertation, because that's kind of that's the homework assignments of homework assignments, right? It's a dissertation, right? And I just said, he told me, like, look, spend 10 minutes a day. Instead of bench writing, instead of bench studying, instead of sitting down for 3 hours on a Saturday or 4 hours, whatever. He goes, if you spend 10 minutes a day, you trick your brain into just sort of being engaged with that subject, right? For the whole time. So when you're away from it, it's fresh enough that you're asking yourself questions, you're seeing connections, and it worked, man. I mean, I sort of stuck to this idea of I'm going to work on my stuff every day for 10 minutes a day, and I was able to cruise through pretty quickly through my whole study and write-ups and all that stuff. So with the whole, I mentioned that because we tell kids or the audience who engages with this class, hey, if you spend 10 minutes a day on your finances, that's going to be, that's huge. Sort of the gold standard.
So the video, the longest video I think is 6 minutes long.
Wow.
And it's animated. So there's so it's not just like super dry graphics, and the guidebook helps kind of guide you through the course. But yeah, 5 to 6 minutes on a video, and then 2 or 3 minutes writing a couple things on a piece of paper. And that's it.
Wow.
That's all you need.
Sounds like the perfect class.
It does sound like the perfect
class. That's what I needed. Well, I've just always wondered, like homework, all that. It's just like
there's so much unnecessary stuff.
Oh my gosh,
that's right.
It's crazy.
So the idea with what we're trying to build is like this will be the first one, and there's a lot of other fun stuff coming. I mean, we're going to get into different kind of life skills that Fidel talked about, but our goal, ultimately our big goal, is to help close this opportunity gap, right? So to get the education into the hands of the people who really need it, but then to provide opportunities and skills and resources to everyone, and that might be looking at what does crypto and Web3 look like for you, or how to
here we go.
like how to negotiate crypto. All this different types of stuff. So all of these things are coming. This financial literacy, it's meant to be just that. Like it's the foundation of a house. It's super boring. You've never walked up to a house and been like, that's a solid foundation. Man, that cement looks good.
Yep.
But if you don't have one, the house isn't going to stand for very long, right? So that's what this is. It's the unsexy, not very fun, but super important foundation. Then we can go and build all sorts of more fun stuff afterwards.
Well, and just being able to start, I think a lot of kids do, like your kid, like they do get in trouble. Like they turn 18, they can get a credit card, they do something stupid, which is kind of what they're hoping for.
Well, they're learning, bro. That's learning.
They are learning,
right?
But you don't want to learn with 20 grand of debt, like off the bat. It's like, if you know what that credit card represents, how it works, you'll still maybe make a mistake or two. Like you'll still overdraw your account once in a while, but you'll have enough of a handle on it to know to not let it get out of control.
That example for Fidel, without Fidel's guidance, that son probably makes minimum payments on that credit card.
Oh yeah.
And then it probably takes him 20 years to get out from underneath it. And now he's paid $20,000 in interest.
Right.
You don't get out from underneath that.
No.
Right. So there's learning, but then there's like structured learning. And that's the goal, is to help provide a little bit more structure to it.
Right. Well, in a way that's entertaining and quick.
What do you think, man?
I dig it. I need it for me.
Look for those 3 a.m. commercials.
So it's not quite available yet.
Nope.
But you can get it.
No, it's been, I got to tell you, man, from a learning standpoint, and this speaks to, for your customers, right? For your listeners, if they are consuming, there's a lot of information out there, right? And how do you know what to listen to, right? And you can pray. That's one good option.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the other thing you can do, and when you look at the content that people are putting out, it's a lot of work to put something out there. I mean, Andrew and I have spent, hours and hours thinking about the curriculum, putting the films together, and we're finally at a point now where we just touched up the last few episodes. We've worked with some good partners that have helped us with the digital component. The point that I'm trying to make is that, man, good education, it does take time to put out there.
Right.
That was certainly my learning lesson, right? You think you're going to come together and put something out there in a week, and it just, it takes time.
Well, we're probably 100 hours for a 5-minute video.
But we're excited, man. We're excited it's out there.
Between all the different stuff with the video, filming and edits and
I feel like I deserve an advance copy. I want to be a beta tester.
We have access. So that's what I'm saying. We have access.
I would love to see.
I can give you access to the video right now. We just don't have like a website ready to market it. But the course is 100% ready to go. So like if you'll hit me up, like I can get you access to it.
I think it's awesome.
I'm excited. It should be fun. I mean,
and you're dropping your license to do this.
No, we're going all in.
Damn. Are you dropping your PhD to do this?
Am I dropping my PhD?
Yeah, you got to get rid of it. You got to put some skin in the game like Andrew did.
I told Fidel my goal is that this is his last year as principal.
You need to burn it on Instagram.
Yeah,
just the paper. I mean, you'll still have it.
You can't. You never let. That's the one good thing. Nobody could ever take that away from you, right?
For sure.
For sure. This has been awesome, you guys. This has been great.
Well, we've learned a lot.
For having me,
I think this stuff it's a hot button, right? Like I think education is a hot button for a lot of people, especially the money. Like when I go pay my property taxes, I'm just like, oh my gosh. And
but now you can sing, bro, when you pay those property taxes.
Oh no,
I'm
still not going to sing.
You can be excited about supporting, Timview High School.
I do have one last question. How do people if they want their voices heard with education? Like, because that's the thing that I think stresses a lot of parents out is you can go to the school, but then you find out the school is part of a district. Well, the district is so freaking massive. Like, you're not going to get heard by them. And then the district is beholden to the state, and then the state, if they want money,
federal,
they have to do what Barack Obama says.
I'll tell you this, man.
Core curriculum, remember that? For Common Core.
If parents have a school leader, a principal worth their money, that principal is going to want to listen, right? And good principals, they understand that their parents are and the kids are their customers, right? And they understand that, hey, we exist to serve these folks, right? And if they don't have sort of open door policies, if they don't have ways that they can communicate, then I think the parents then should be talking to the school districts and saying, hey, how come I can't access my principal? Good principals and good school leaders will sit down with people. You can engage and have good conversations, right? Now, it doesn't mean that, you can flip everything upside down and, but in terms of engagement and having good dialogue over curriculum, over stuff, that's a good starting point, right? If you have things that you want to sort of, brainstorm with, if you want to partner with a school, one of, our back to my PTA ladies that are listening. What's up, ladies? Hope you guys are all good. My PTA, man, they came with an idea to say, hey, can we start an ACT prep class, and they partnered with us, and man, they killed it in our ACT scores.
That's cool.
It is actually really cool. This couple of months ago, the state put out the schools that had the highest growth in ACTs and the top ACT schools with ACT scores. Our school was the number one school, right, in the state. And I'm not saying it was all because of them, but they had a huge impact on that. So that was one involvement point.
That's actually a really cool story.
We have parents that get involved, obviously, through, our extracurricular programs, through sports, and they make a big difference, right? They volunteer. So there's a ton of access points to your schools. And they're not quite as scary as they may seem. And if listen,
but they require effort.
Well, I think a lot of people, I don't know that it's effort that's the problem. I think a lot of people just feel like they just kind of assume there's no way to, I would have never thought to go to the principal.
Have a conversation with that person.
But, you just kind of think like, well, there's no city council meeting. There's no place where I can go and have 5 minutes to hop on a mic in front of the school board. And
for me now, I have an Instagram account, Principal Montero, if you want to check it out on Instagram,
I can't wait.
But parents will DM me, man.
See,
they'll
that's
send me
cool.
a DM and they'll be like, hey, yo, why aren't you talking about this? Or can we talk about that? Now, I do get a little trolling, and that's all right.
Oh, and I was going to ask you, I'm sure you get some, how many times do parents come in and it's just like, it's a fight from the get-go?
It is. And, a lot of times,
people suck. I'll tell you that.
Oh,
well,
suck.
What I'll say about that, man, is a lot of times people have a lot of emotions that haven't worked out, and we're an easy target because we're a public place. Right. But once you listen to somebody, most people are really cool, man. Most people just, they want to be heard. They have opinions. They have strong opinions that come from there's context to them. But, most parents are actually pretty cool people, man. And they just trying to, they're trying to make a difference in their kids' lives. And when you can engage, and have a good conversation about that, good things happen. Now, There are some parents that I think, bless their hearts, they didn't take their medications that day and, and no, but most parents are amazing, man. Good people.
Well, that's cool. I never thought to go to the principal. I'm going to set up an appointment today.
Yeah, set it up, man.
Get ready. I don't even know his name. I'm just kidding. Well, no, that's cool. I think to be accessible for people that's an awesome thing. And you want to be involved.
That's right.
I was saying that to my wife the other day. I'm like, if there's something with the city that drives me crazy, like I can go to the city council meeting and they give free mic time. But I'm like, I don't think there's anything like that in the education system. Like we all pay property taxes, right?
There absolutely is, though, man. You don't have a 2-minute time limit. You can come in and we can chat.
But see, that I think it's cool to put that out there. Like you can go and speak to your principal, and hopefully they're willing to listen, because it's like, hey, man, every person that you sit in front, like I'm paying $6,000 a year. Like, I am a customer, right?
You are,
like, I'm
absolutely.
a paying customer.
You're a paying customer.
And so you do want to feel like if you do need to talk about something.
And it's a partnership, man. It's a partnership. Again, any good principal understands that educating that child is an absolute partnership. So, I don't assume I know all the answers on how to educate, your little Bam Bam Junior. You know what I'm saying? So I need you. I need you as a parent to help me understand that, for us to engage. And you also, I think, don't have, you can learn a lot from what's happening in a school, right? In terms of all the good things that we're doing to help little Bam Bam Jr.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's definitely a partnership. And I think when we're talking with each other, engaging with each other, that's when, the best results happen.
Right. We'll see in teachers too. Like I will give a shout out to Mrs. Childs. If you're listening to this, Kylie Childs, she was Dodgers teachers last year.
Who's that?
And she would text hey,
Miss Childs.
Miss Childs.
Miss Childs, you got a free dinner for you and your family at Bam Bam's.
They
barbecue.
are getting free lunch. All the teachers are getting fed
Let's
here in
go.
like a week. But no, she would like text like, hey, Dodgers doing great. Like
you named your
anything.
kid Dodger?
Yeah, Dodgers my. Did you? Oh yeah, I guess you wouldn't know that, huh? What's funny though is it's not really about this. I'll explain later. But I loved that, and it did make me feel like she cared about Dodger. I know that once you get to high school, that's probably a little harder, but but yeah, there are a lot. Just like you said, most of them are awesome.
They are.
They're there because they want to be, and so yeah. Well, thanks, man. We learned a lot.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. This has been a blast, man. I hope I've been able to say a few things that will help your audience have a better sense of what's happening in the field of education. Good, and also things that we need to do better. So thanks for having me, man.
When are you going to be on the board of education?
On which board? There's a lot of boards.
The state. I want you on the state. I want you to replace that one psycho lady that's on that board. What's her name?
No, listen, man. I love what I'm doing. I love being at a ground level.
I think being at a high school would be awesome.
It's awesome.
I think it'd be hard, but
hardest job in America.
It's a fun age.
Hardest job, but also one of the best jobs.
Awesome. Well, thank you for doing it.
Thanks, brother.
We appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.